What's up guys, Magic Naps here, and I'm doing another random review video for you guys, and this time it's gonna be on the Yonex Ezone 98. This is the newest tennis racket that I've gotten for myself. This is the one that Nick Kyrgios endorses. He does not actually use this technically. He uses the XI98, but you know, obviously for branding purposes, they do a paint job of his to make it look like the new model. So in that regard, this is sort of his racket, but not really, obviously. From what I know, the XI98 is a little bit stiffer, and it's closer to the Babolat Pure Drive, which is what I used to use. But I'm going to go over this specific model, the Ezone 98, the 2020 version, and why I really like it. So first off, like, you gotta admit, just looking at it and the color and everything, the design details, it looks really nice. Like, I'm a big fan of blue colored rackets, even though blue is not necessarily my favorite color. Red and black are. But when it came to tennis stuff, I always just seemed to lean more to blue, and hence why when I first started, I went with a Babolat Pure Drive. Obviously, this one is not as blue as the newer models are, but you get the idea. But man, like, just looking at this, man, it's like I almost didn't want to play with it just because it looks so nice that, like, the finishing and everything is just, it was amazing. Obviously, once you get a few dinks and scratches, then you get over that hump eventually. Like, it was difficult at first to play it and scratch it, but then just after a while, the more I play with it, just you get used to it. So, but comparing this to the Babolat Pure Drive, this is the old model. I don't know exactly what year this is, so if you know, you can leave it down in the comments. But I'm kind of doing a somewhat of a comparison between these, just because I'm not going to give you too much detail on the specs and everything. You can kind of figure it out yourself or watch other videos. But this one specifically, I remember it's about 305 grams, and this one is actually 300 grams. So even though it's technically heavier than, like, tiny bit heavier than the Babolat Pure Drive, it feels lighter to me. I don't know why, it just feels lighter, and that's why I was really, like, hoping I would get a tiny bit more racket head speed. And obviously, you know, with Nick Kyrgios, he develops a lot of racket head speed, hence why he has super fast serves, even though he's technically not using this one, but you get the idea. But so I wanted that, I wanted a bit of that benefit of having a slightly faster racket head speed, or at least not to have to force myself so much energy and force just to develop that that racket's head speed. Because as good as the Babolat Pure Drive was, I found that, you know, kind of over time, because of its slightly heavier feel to it, I had to generate a lot of force to get those triple-digit serve speeds, which I now actually am able to do. I actually am now starting to. Before, my average serve speed was around 85 miles an hour. Now, with some practice over quarantine, I've bumped it up. Now it's averaging around 98, sometimes a little over 100 miles an hour. It's pretty awesome. And once I switched over to this racket, I was able to get 100-mile-an-hour serves with slightly less effort because of the slightly lighter feel to it. I could create that swing speed with slightly less effort. Not a big difference, but tiny bit difference for me. So that's just one thing to know. One big thing you'll notice, obviously, with the shape of the head racket, this is their isometric racket face design, more or less. It's more of a square shape, so in theory it is to increase the size of the sweet spot as compared to just a standard racket head, and I can kind of feel that. Obviously, it's not like a huge difference. Like, generally speaking, like you'll still want to hit it fairly center, but even on slightly off center shots, it does feel pretty solid when you strike it like near the center, and even if it's slightly off center, it doesn't affect the strike of the ball as much. Actually, what made the Babolat Pure Drive, the benefit of it being slightly heavier to me, or feeling slightly heavier to me, is that even when I did strike the ball, even when it was slightly off, it felt more solid when I would strike it. So you know, the racket would do a little bit more of the work for me, and also help keep it more stable when I did strike the ball, and even if it wasn't like dead center. This, you do have a little bit less stability when you strike it, but because of that slightly bigger sweet spot, it does help a little bit. So it's sort of a give and take, right? I get a little tinier, faster racket head speed with this, and because it's because of that, you know, sometimes it can feel a little bit wobbly or less stable when you strike the ball. At least when you're not hitting it dead center. But even then, because of the slightly bigger head, because of the slightly bigger sweet spot, it makes up for it. But yeah, overall, really nice racket, and it performs pretty well too. I can actually, because of the slightly lighter feel to it, I can actually generate a little bit more spin, especially on my kick serve, which is pretty nice. And the strings that I'm using right now, these are not the ones that Kyrgios uses. Obviously, I think he uses the Poly Tour or something. I'll leave the name of the strings that are currently on this in the video here, so you guys can see. But generally, doesn't matter. I mean, has really good power when it comes off the racket. So, you know, overall, I would say this is a pretty good racket to go with if you're thinking about modeling yourself after Nick Kyrgios, because I mean, you know, despite his controversial nature, like he's really talented, and I think he's got a pretty cool looking racket too. So yeah, I definitely recommend the Yonex Ezone 98. Feels really good, looks really good, and if you're all about that power, especially if you like hitting really hard serves like Nick Kyrgios, I think you're definitely gonna like this, especially if you're a Babolat fan like myself. Like, this is a good transition if you're kind of getting sick of the Babolat Pure Drive and stuff. So yeah, those are my brief thoughts about it. If you have questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'll try my best to answer them. But granted, I'm not super knowledgeable about this stuff, because I am just a casual player. I am a tennis coach, but I'm not super knowledgeable about the specs and whatnot. I'm just sort of your average Joe as far as like tennis knowledge goes for rackets. So, but yeah, anyways, I'd love to see your comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hope to see you guys in my future videos. Until next time, peace out.